That straw mattress you're lying on? It's not just uncomfortable, it's a breeding ground for fleas and bedbugs. Forget waking up to birds chirping. Your medieval alarm clock is the church bell, signaling another day of back-breaking labor. Your breakfast isn't pancakes and coffee. It's gritty pottage and hard bread, washed down with weak beer because the water would likely kill you. You think your memory foam mattress is a modern luxury? Let me introduce you to your new bed. That straw-filled sack you call a mattress isn't just a place to sleep. It's a fully operational ecosystem. Each night brings a fresh wave of bites and itching from the permanent residents who share your space. Bedbugs weren't a minor inconvenience you could call an exterminator about. They were a constant source of infection and relentless sleep deprivation. These mattresses were rarely, if ever, changed out. They accumulated years, sometimes decades, of human sweat, skin flakes, dirt, and pest droppings. The straw itself broke down over time, becoming a fine, irritating dust that filled the air you breathed while you tried to rest. There was no such thing as a hypoallergenic cover or a mattress protector. You slept directly on the source of the problem. The bed pocket you might have heard about wasn't a convenient storage feature for your personal items. It was the opposite. This was the area at the seam of the mattress where the fabric gathered, and it served as the prime breeding ground and nesting site for the worst of your unwanted roommates. This is where you would find the highest concentrations of bedbugs and their eggs, a little pocket of pure horror sewn right into your sleeping quarters. And the fleas were even more dangerous. Flea-borne diseases like typhus were a genuine, daily threat lurking in the bedding. Typhus causes high fever, headache, and a rash, and without modern medicine, it was often a death sentence. These fleas didn't just come from your mattress, they lived in the seams of your clothing too, so you carried the risk with you all day. A simple good night's sleep was a gamble with your health. This wasn't a temporary discomfort you endured on a camping trip or while waiting for a new bed to be delivered. This was your permanent sleeping arrangement. From childhood to old age, this was what you had. The concept of a supportive, clean, private sleeping surface was centuries away from being a reality for anyone outside the highest nobility, and even their beds were far from pristine. Your first challenge every single day wasn't just mustering the will to get up and face your labor, it was surviving the night without being eaten alive. You started each morning already drained, your skin marked by the night's inhabitants, your body stiff from trying to find a comfortable position on a lumpy, scratchy surface that offered no support. You began your day of back-breaking work having already lost a battle against an army of insects. And this is just where your day begins. The misery of the night was merely the prelude to the daylight hours of relentless toil. The itching and the fatigue were your constant companions, a low-grade suffering that never truly subsided. You had no reprieve, no clean sanctuary to retreat to when the work was done. You just returned to the same infested sack to recharge for another round. Forget the gentle sunlight or a digital chime. Your wake-up call is the village church bell, and it is absolute. It doesn't just mark the time, it commands your labor. That sound echoing across the fields isn't a suggestion, it's a direct order from your spiritual and earthly landlords. When that bell rings, you move. There is no debate, no negotiation, and certainly no snooze button. Sleeping in is not an option when the entire village, from the blacksmith to the baker, is already stirring and heading to their assigned tasks. Your personal desire for another 5 minutes of sleep is a luxury your station in life cannot afford. This bell controls every single aspect of your existence from dawn till dusk. It dictates when you wake, when you start work in the fields, when you break for your meager meals, when you pause for prayer, and finally, when you are permitted to stop working. The sound is a constant auditory reminder of your subservience. It reinforces the hierarchy every time it cuts through the air. You are not the master of your own time. You are a resource on a schedule managed by the church and the manor. Your body's natural rhythm, whether you're a morning person or not, is irrelevant. The institution's time is the only time that matters. These bells were strategically loud, their sound carrying for miles across the flat, open countryside. This design was intentional. It ensured that no one, no matter how remote their hut or field, could claim they didn't hear the call to duty. There was no escaping its reach. If you failed to appear for work after the bell rang, the consequences were immediate. Fines, extra labor duties, or physical punishment from the Lord's bailiff were the standard response. Your presence was mandatory, and the bell was the enforcement mechanism. This auditory control extends throughout your entire day, with multiple compulsory prayer calls. The canonical hours, prime, terce, sext, none, vespers, structure the day into blocks of labor and brief moments of supposed spiritual reflection. Even these pauses are not your own. You stop what you are doing and engage in the obligatory rituals. Your freedom, what little exists, begins with the total surrender of your daily schedule to an authority you did not choose. Your life is a series of intervals measured by the clanging of metal, not the beating of your own heart. The bell's authority is so complete that it even dictates the pace of your work. The number of rings or the specific pattern might signal a change in tasks or an urgent summons. You become attuned to its language, your entire nervous system wired to respond to its command. It is the metronome for a life of relentless, monotonous toil. You don't own your time, your labor, or even your attention. All of it is leased back to you conditionally, with the bell serving as the perpetual invoice. Now that you are officially and involuntarily awake, your day of servitude can truly begin. The grogginess from your infested bed is now compounded by the grim reality of the schedule ahead. You have roughly 12 hours of daylight, filled with physical labor that will leave your body broken, all of it punctuated by the same bell that ripped you from sleep. There is no weekend to look forward to, no vacation on the horizon. There is only the next bell, and the next, and the next, until your body gives out entirely. Your first conscious act every day is an act of submission. Your morning coffee and toast? That's several centuries in the future. Your breakfast consists of pottage, a thick, grainy stew that has been simmering in a large iron pot over the hearth fire for days, maybe even weeks. This isn't a choice, it's the only food available, and its composition is dictated entirely by the previous harvest's success or failure. The base is usually a mixture of whatever grains survived, oats, barley, or rye, boiled down into a gluey, monotonous sludge. The texture sits somewhere between overcooked oatmeal and wet cement, a gloopy substance that provides calories but little else. Vegetables might be thrown in if they're available, onions, peas, leeks, or cabbage, but they lose all individuality, dissolving into the bland, beige mass. Meat is an extreme rarity, a luxury reserved for major religious feasts a few times a year. For you, animal protein is more likely to come from an unlucky rodent or insect that found its way into the pot than from a piece of bacon. The consistency is often gritty from bits of the millstone that chipped off during grinding, and you learn to chew carefully to avoid cracking a tooth on a small stone that made it into the flour. Foreign objects are not an anomaly. They are an expected part of the meal. The bread accompanying this pottage is a dark, dense loaf made from coarse, unbolted flour. It's so hard that you can't simply bite into it. You have to soak a hunk in the stew to make it chewable. This bread is full of bran and husks, and it acts like sandpaper on your teeth, slowly wearing them down over a lifetime. It's not a side dish. It's a tool for scooping and a filler to stretch your stomach. The flavor is sour and earthy, a stark contrast to the mild nothingness of the pottage. Together, they form a fuel source, not a culinary experience. Malnutrition was a constant, silent companion. Seasonal variations meant that towards the end of winter and into early spring, before the new crops came in, food became incredibly scarce. The pottage grew thinner, the bread portions smaller. The threat of outright starvation was a real and persistent fear that hung over every meal. Your body operated on a cycle of feast and famine, but the feasts were relative and the famines were absolute. You were chronically deficient in essential vitamins and minerals, leading to a host of health problems like scurvy or rickets that you wouldn't even have a name for. Your breakfast isn't about enjoyment, variety, or nutrition in the modern sense. It's about one thing: filling your stomach with enough bulk to get you through the first half of a day of relentless physical labor. It's utilitarian fuel for a human machine. You eat quickly, without pleasure, knowing that the same meal, with minor variations, will be waiting for you at dusk. The crushing monotony of your diet is just another layer of the grind, a daily reminder of your limited and precarious existence. But the problem of what you're eating is only half the story. The bigger, more immediate problem is what you're drinking with it. That morning, beer isn't a choice or a social lubricant. It's your primary source of hydration, because the alternative is a death sentence. The water from your local stream or well is a biological hazard, openly contaminated with human and animal waste from the village upstream. Drinking it untreated is a direct gamble with dysentery, cholera, or typhoid fever. The fermentation process involved in brewing, even for weak, small beer, kills many of the dangerous pathogens through the alcohol production and the boiling of the water. This brewed beverage, however low in alcohol, becomes the only reliably non-lethal liquid you can consume. You drink this beer all day, every day, from childhood to old age. It has a very low alcohol content, maybe 1 or 2%, so you aren't getting drunk from it. Instead, you exist in a permanent, low-level fog of mild intoxication. Your senses are slightly dulled, your head occasionally fuzzy. This isn't a state of celebration. It's a baseline condition of your existence. Your body is conditioned to process a constant stream of alcohol just to function. Clear, safe drinking water is a luxury you will never experience. A concept as fantastical as flying. This constant consumption creates its own set of long-term health problems that you wouldn't even recognize. Liver stress, nutritional deficiencies from the calories it provides, and the subtle cognitive effects of perpetual mild inebriation are just part of life. You are hydrating with a substance that is slowly, quietly damaging your body over decades. But it's a far better alternative than the violent, quick death offered by the water supply. Your life is literally fueled by alcohol from the moment you are weaned, a necessity that underscores the sheer fragility of your survival. Now, about your bathroom. Your ensuite bathroom is a fantasy beyond noble comprehension. Your toilet is likely a communal privy, a small wooden shack with a bench seat over a deep pit, shared with multiple neighboring families. This structure doesn't have plumbing. It empties directly into that same pit, which slowly filters its contents into the groundwater. Or worse, it's positioned to drain into the nearby stream, the very water source you know not to drink from. You are actively contaminating your own environment with every use, a perfect, vicious cycle of disease. At night, or in bad weather, you use a chamber pot kept inside the hut. This is simply a bucket. It gets emptied out the door or into the yard in the morning, adding another layer of filth to the immediate surroundings and contributing to the pervasive stench that defines your home. There is no toilet paper. You use whatever is available and abrasive: a handful of straw, a clump of moss, a rag that gets reused, or a handful of dry leaves. This is not a gentle process. It's irritating, unsanitary, and a direct vector for spreading bacteria and parasites like worms. The stench from these facilities is overwhelming, particularly in the summer heat. It draws clouds of flies and other insects, which then land on your food and your skin, transferring disease. Rodents are also constant visitors, drawn to the waste. For women, managing menstruation with this level of sanitation is a significantly greater challenge, involving homemade cloth pads that are rarely properly cleaned and pose a serious risk of infection. There is no dignity or privacy in this process. Basic bodily functions are public, uncomfortable, and dangerous affairs that you must conduct multiple times a day, reminded each time of your vulnerability and the brutal simplicity of your existence. Now that you're as freshened up as you're going to get, let's talk about the clothes you'll be wearing for all of this. The walk to work. You step outside and the ground gives way under your feet. The village street isn't paved. It's a thick slurry of mud, churned daily by carts, animals, and hundreds of footsteps. This mud isn't just dirt and water, it's the community's open sewer, a mixture of every kind of waste imaginable. You have to pick your path carefully, navigating around fresh piles of dung from the pigs and oxen that wander freely. You avoid the darker, wetter patches where chamber pots were emptied from upper windows just moments before. The concept of a designated waste disposal area is a luxury your village lacks. The stench is a physical presence, a thick fog that hangs in the air, especially on damp, windless mornings. It's a complex odor of rotting food scraps, animal manure, and human waste. You've lived with it your entire life, so you've learned to mostly ignore it, but a visitor from our time would be physically sickened by the assault. There's no getting used to the flies, though. They swarm in clouds, rising from the waste as you pass, landing on your face and hands as you walk. They are a constant, buzzing reminder of the filth you live in. Pigs are the primary sanitation engineers, though they are terrible at their job. They root through the garbage, eating anything remotely edible, but they also churn the filth deeper into the ground and spread it around. Chickens peck at the edges, adding their own droppings to the mix. This isn't a picturesque farm scene, it's a biohazard zone. There is no public service to collect refuse, no understanding that this environment breeds disease. The waste simply accumulates, gets trodden down, and becomes part of the landscape you walk on. Your footwear, if you're fortunate enough to own any, offers little protection. Peasant shoes are simple affairs called turn shoes, made from a single piece of leather stitched together. They are flimsy, poorly fitted, and quickly become soaked through. They have thin soles that offer no cushioning from the uneven, rocky ground. You can feel every stone, every lump of refuse through the soft leather. In winter, the cold and damp seep through instantly, making your feet numb. In summer, the leather cracks and your feet sweat, creating a perfect environment for blisters and sores. Many people simply go barefoot, their soles becoming toughened but perpetually caked in mud and worse. Every step you take is a negotiation with the filth. You track this mixture of mud, manure, and decay everywhere you go. You bring it back into your house on your shoes and the hem of your tunic, adding to the grime on your dirt floor. There is no doormat, no place to wipe your feet. The boundary between the external filth of the village and the internal filth of your home is porous and undefined. Your journey to the fields is a daily immersion in a world where cleanliness is an impossible dream. You are not just walking to work, you are wading through the collective waste of your community, a slog that begins each day by reminding you of your place at the bottom of the sanitation chain. The filth is inescapable, a part of your environment as fundamental as the air you breathe and the soil you till. You arrive at the field with the grime of the village already clinging to you, a layer of filth that will mix with the sweat and soil of the day's labor. There is no clean start. The constant companions. As you swing your sickle or push the plow, you are never working in solitude. Flies form a persistent cloud around your head, drawn by the salt of your sweat and any trace of food on your hands or clothes. They land on your face, your lips, your eyes, a constant buzzing annoyance you swat at instinctively, a motion as automatic as breathing. The fleas and lice that hosted your mattress and clothing have now redeployed to your body for the day shift. Their bites create a map of itchy red welts across your skin, a low-level suffering that grinds on your nerves from sunrise to sunset. You are in a state of perpetual low-grade irritation, a human pincushion for the local insect population. There is no bug spray, no citronella candle, no screened-in porch offering a reprieve. You have no defenses against this aerial and terrestrial assault. Your only option is endurance. You scratch the bites without thinking, grinding dirt into the broken skin and increasing the risk of infection. A simple scratch can turn into a festering sore in days, a gateway for disease in a world without antibiotics. Your comfort is not a factor in this equation. The ecosystem does not care if you are itchy or annoyed. You are a source of food and shelter, a warm-blooded habitat. Larger pests are constant spectators to your labor. Rats the size of small cats move through the tall grass at the edge of the field, their eyes gleaming as they watch you gather the grain that will also feed their burgeoning colonies. They are bold, clever, and carry their own suite of diseases. They infest the thatch of your roof and the grain stores you work so hard to fill, their droppings and urine contaminating your winter food supply. You wage a constant losing war against them, but they are always there, a rustle in the stalks, a fleeting shadow, a reminder of how tenuous your claim on your own harvest really is. You share your environment completely with nature, with no barriers. There is no distinction between the outside world and your workspace. The field is as much the domain of the insects, rodents, and birds as it is yours. You are an intruder in their territory, and they treat you as such. This intimate coexistence is not a romantic ideal of harmony. It's a brutal contest for resources where you are just one competitor among many, and not always the most successful one. Disease is the invisible passenger carried by these creatures. Every flea bite is a potential delivery system for typhus. Every rat flea could be carrying the bacterium responsible for the Black Death. A single scratch from a contaminated rat could lead to rat bite fever. You are surrounded by invisible threats, your body a potential battlefield from microscopic wars you cannot see and do not understand. The medical knowledge of the time attributes illness to bad air or divine punishment, leaving the real vectors, your constant animal companions, free to operate without suspicion. A simple flea bite, an irritation you dismiss with a dab of calamine lotion today, could literally be the beginning of the end for you. It could mean a week of raging fever, delirium, and a painful death, leaving your family without a laborer. The line between a minor annoyance and a mortal threat is impossibly thin. Your daily companions are not just a nuisance, they are a permanent, mobile health hazard. Your existence is a negotiation with these creatures, and the terms are always in their favor. You work, and they feed. You harvest, and they steal. You live, and they carry the seeds of your potential demise on their legs and in their saliva. Your comfort is entirely irrelevant to the ecosystem you are forced to inhabit. Justice without mercy. You have a grievance against a neighbor? You feel you've been wronged. The legal system you're about to encounter exists to protect property and social order, not you. Justice is not blind. It's acutely aware of your station. Your case will be heard not in a court of law with impartial judges, but by your own lord or his appointed bailiff. This man holds absolute power over disputes within the manor. He is the prosecutor, the judge, and the jury. His primary interest is maintaining the peace and productivity of his lands, not ensuring fairness for a lowly peasant. The punishments he dispenses are not about rehabilitation or even proportional justice. They are brutal public spectacles designed for one purpose: to deter others from committing the same offense. If you are accused of stealing a loaf of bread to feed your family, the penalty could be the loss of a hand. A branding iron might be applied to your forehead, marking you as a thief for life. These physical mutilations are permanent reminders to everyone of the cost of stepping out of line. The law is a tool of social control, and its enforcement is meant to be terrifying. Torture is a routine part of the judicial process. If you are suspected of a crime, especially a serious one like poaching on the Lord's land, you can be subjected to various forms of torture to extract a confession. The logic is simple. Pain brings truth. Devices like the rack or thumb screws are used to elicit the answers the authorities want to hear. Your testimony, if you are a peasant, is considered inherently less credible than that of a landowner or a noble. Your word carries little weight against your social superiors. Separate from the manorial court is the church court, which handles moral and religious offenses. If you are accused of blasphemy, adultery, or heresy, you could face its judgment. Punishments here are often psychological and public. You might be forced to perform a humiliating public penance, standing outside the church in a simple robe while the entire village files past and scorns you. The goal is to shame you back into compliance with the church's moral code. In some regions, older forms of justice like trial by ordeal or trial by combat still persist. Trial by ordeal involves a physical test, like carrying a hot iron or being submerged in water. The outcome is believed to reveal a divine judgment. If your wounds heal cleanly, God has declared you innocent. Trial by combat allows a dispute to be settled by a fight, again with the belief that God will grant victory to the righteous party. These are not systems designed to uncover factual truth. They are rituals that place the burden of proof on divine intervention. The entire legal framework is stacked against you. It protects the interests of the powerful and uses fear and brutality to keep the lower classes in their place. There is no presumption of innocence. There are no defense attorneys. There is no appeal process. A false accusation from a spiteful neighbor or a greedy bailiff can ruin your life or end it. The law is not your shield. It is another weapon used to enforce your oppression. It ensures that any challenge to the established order, no matter how justified, comes with a risk of mutilation, humiliation, or death. Your physical suffering in the fields is matched by the constant psychological threat of a legal system that views you as disposable. Your body may be broken by labor, but the law exists to break your spirit. The smell that never leaves you. Live inside a smell you no longer consciously notice. It's a complex, layered odor that permeates everything. Your hut, your clothes, your skin. It's the baseline condition of your sensory world. The components are a pungent mix of wood smoke from the perpetually smoldering hearth, the sharp tang of human sweat from bodies that haven't been properly washed in months, the earthy, sweet smell of livestock that share your living space, and the underlying, ever-present funk of the communal latrine and the open sewers that serve as your streets. It's not one smell, but a dozen, all mingled into a single, oppressive atmosphere. You've become so accustomed to this stench that it fades into the background, just like the constant itching from insect bites. Your olfactory nerves have deadened to the assault. But a visitor from our time would be physically overwhelmed, perhaps even made sick by the sheer intensity of it. There's no escaping it, no refreshing burst of clean air. Every breath you take is a reminder of the biological reality of your existence. The prevailing medical theory actively discourages cleaning the source of the problem. Doctors and clerics teach that bathing, particularly hot baths, is dangerous. The belief is that water, especially warm water, opens the pores of the skin and allows diseases and foul miasmas from the air to enter the body more easily. So, washing is minimal and superficial. You might splash some cold water on your face and hands. A full body immersion in water is considered a bizarre and risky act, something only the insane or the decadent nobility would attempt. Perfumes, scented oils, and pomanders are unimaginable luxuries reserved for the aristocracy. They use these strong scents not out of a love for fragrance, but as a desperate attempt to mask their own equally potent body odor. For you, there is no masking agent. The smell clings to your wool tunic permanently. It's woven into the fibers from years of sweat and smoke. It's in your unwashed hair and embedded in your skin. You carry this personal cloud of odor with you wherever you go. The dominant smells shift with the seasons, offering a grim rotation of olfactory torture. In the autumn, the air carries the thick, sweet smell of decay from rotting vegetation and fallen fruit. In the summer, the heat amplifies everything, turning the village into a fermenting bowl. The smell of waste from the streets becomes sharper, more pungent. The aroma of unwashed bodies intensifies. In the winter, the cold suppresses some odors, but traps the smoky, cramped smells inside your sealed-up hut. Each season presents a new variation on the theme of stench. This constant sensory bombardment is a psychological burden as much as a physical one. While you may not notice it consciously after a lifetime of exposure, it contributes to a low-grade, perpetual state of discomfort. Your environment constantly reminds you of dirt, decay, and your own animal nature. There is no clean, fresh sanctuary to retreat to, no place where your senses can rest. The world you inhabit smells exactly like what it is, a place without sanitation, without privacy, and without the most basic concepts of hygiene. Your nose is never given a break, and neither is your spirit. The foul air is just another thread in the fabric of your oppression, an invisible cage that reminds you of your place in the natural order, somewhere between the animals and the dirt. The evening meal. You trudge back into your hut as dusk settles, and the smell that hits you is familiar. It's dinner, which is to say, it's the smell of lunch and breakfast. The same large cast-iron pot has been hanging over the hearth all day, its contents simmering away. Tonight's pottage might have a few more wilted cabbage leaves or an extra handful of peas thrown in, but it is fundamentally the same gloppy beige gruel you ate this morning. The monotony of it is a physical weight. This isn't a meal you anticipate. It's a caloric obligation you fulfill. You eat in near darkness, the fire in the hearth providing the only flickering, uneven light. It's not a cozy, romantic ambience. It's just dark. Shadows dance across the tired faces of your family. Conversation is minimal, if it happens at all. Everyone is too exhausted from the day's labor to muster the energy for talk. The only sounds are the scraping of wooden bowls and spoons, and maybe the crackle of the fire. This is not a time for family bonding, it's a silent, communal refueling. The food serves a single purpose: to replace the calories you burned in the fields. It provides bulk, a feeling of fullness that will have to last until the same meal tomorrow. There is no joy in the eating, no culinary experience. The flavor is a vague, earthy blandness, the texture a uniform mush. Spices like pepper, cinnamon, or cloves are unimaginable luxuries, worth more than your entire family's yearly earnings. They are for the nobility, who use them to display their wealth. For you, flavor is an irrelevant concept. Food is fuel, period. Your diet is not just monotonous, it's nutritionally bankrupt. You survive on a narrow range of grains and whatever hardy vegetables grew in your small garden plot. Meat is so rare, it's practically mythical. This lack of variety leads to chronic vitamin deficiencies. You might not know the names for the conditions plaguing you: scurvy from lack of vitamin C, making your gums bleed and your teeth loose; pellagra from a diet heavy in corn; rickets in children from insufficient vitamin D, bowing their legs. These are not diseases, they are just the normal state of your body, the inevitable result of your diet. The entire cycle is a perfect, miserable circle of deprivation. You eat this bland, limited food to have the strength to perform the back-breaking labor that earns you the right to grow more of the bland, limited food. There is no upward trajectory, no variety to break the grind. You work to eat, and you eat to work. Each meal is a reminder that your existence is a closed loop of subsistence. There is no dessert, no special treat, no looking forward to a good meal. There is only the pot, always simmering, always containing the same grim promise of another day of labor. You finish your bowl, the hollow feeling in your stomach replaced by a heavy one, and the only thing left to do is prepare for the scant hours of troubled sleep before the bell rings and the cycle begins again, unchanged and unchangeable. The profound lack of anything resembling pleasure or choice in your sustenance is its own special kind of torment, a slow erosion of the spirit conducted one spoonful of pottage at a time. The soundscape of suffering. Forget about peace and quiet. Your world is a constant, grating cacophony. As you work, the air is thick with the grunts and strained breathing of the laborers around you, the rhythmic thud of tools hitting the earth, and the clatter of wooden carts bouncing over ruts. Animals are a major part of the soundtrack. Pigs snort and root through the street waste, oxen low as they pull the plough. Chickens cluck and scatter underfoot, and dogs bark at nothing and everything. There is no escape from this auditory assault. There are no noise-cancelling headphones, no personal speaker to lose yourself in a podcast or a favorite album. Your only soundtrack is the discordant symphony of manual labor and village life. Your own thoughts, what few you have energy for, are constantly interrupted, drowned out, or accompanied by these harsh, functional noises. The concept of a curated soundscape for relaxation or focus is centuries away. The soundscape you inhabit is purely utilitarian and entirely inescapable. The blacksmith's hammer is a particularly brutal punctuation mark in your day. The sharp metallic clang rings out at irregular intervals, a jarring signal that cuts through all other noise. It's the sound of essential work being done, but it's also an abrasive shock to your already frayed nerves. Elsewhere, children cry from hunger, exhaustion, or simple childish frustration, their wails adding a layer of piercing distress to the low drone of adult suffering. There is no quiet room to comfort them, just the open, noisy space of the village. True silence is a rare and almost unsettling commodity. It usually only descends late at night, long after the sun has set, when even the insects have grown tired. This brief respite is not peaceful. It's often filled with a low-grade anxiety. The silence makes the cough of a sick child or the scuttling of rats in the thatch sound deafeningly loud. The absence of the day's noise can feel more oppressive than the noise itself, leaving you alone with the weight of your worries without any distraction. This relentless auditory stimulation is mentally draining in its own unique way. Your brain is never allowed to rest, never given a moment of sensory peace. It's a form of low-level stress that modern science would link to elevated cortisol levels. But for you, it's just the permanent condition of your existence. The soundscape is not designed for your comfort or well-being. It is the incidental byproduct of a community living in cramped, noisy, and unregulated proximity. There is no peace and quiet built into the peasant's design. From the bell that rips you from sleep to the final coughs and snores that signal the end of the day, your life is a marathon of noise. You are never alone with your thoughts because the outside world is always crashing in. The only thing louder than the world around you is the ringing in your ears after a day spent in the smithy's vicinity, or the phantom clang of the church bell that probably echoes in your dreams. The cycle begins anew. Your first 12 hours are finished. You have endured the infested bed, the grinding labor, the meager food, and the constant, low-grade suffering. Your body aches in places you didn't know could ache. Your mind is a dull slate, wiped clean by exhaustion. This isn't a temporary hardship you can overcome. It's the permanent structure of your life. There is no weekend to look forward to. Every seventh day belongs to the church, and often to additional duties for the manor. There is no vacation, no concept of travel for leisure. The idea of retirement is laughable. You will work until your body breaks down completely, and then you will rely on the charity of your children, if they survive, or you will simply starve. This single day, which you have just survived, will repeat itself with crushing monotony for your entire life. The variables change with the seasons: ploughing instead of weeding, bitter cold instead of oppressive heat. But the fundamental components remain the same: relentless labor, physical discomfort, and profound mental stagnation. The romantic notion of a simple, rustic life connected to the land is a fairy tale invented centuries later by people who have never spent a single afternoon trying to pull a stump from frozen ground with their bare hands and a piece of sharpened wood. Your existence isn't one of simplicity, it's one of relentless obligation. You are vulnerable to the weather, to disease, to the whims of your lord, and to the simple bad luck of a sprained ankle. The Middle Ages wouldn't just present you with challenges, it would systematically dismantle you, grinding down your body with labor and your spirit with hopelessness. Each day is a small step in that process, a wearing away of your physical and mental reserves with no opportunity for replenishment. The contrast between the reality you have just lived and the sanitized fairy tale version portrayed in movies and books is staggering. There are no clean peasants in brightly colored tunics laughing merrily as they dance around a maypole. There are only tired, dirty people whose lives are defined by the struggle to secure the next meal and avoid an agonizing death. The heraldry and pageantry of knights and castles exist in a different universe, a world of privilege built directly on top of your suffering. You have not simply experienced a day in the past, you have endured an ordeal. You have been subjected to a level of discomfort, danger, and psychological stress that would break most modern people within a week. This wasn't living. It was a grim, day-long battle for survival that ended with you collapsing onto a bed of straw and pests, only to have to do it all over again in a few hours. The darkness outside your hut is nearly absolute now, broken only by the faint glow of embers in the hearth. The village is quiet, but the silence is fragile. Soon enough, the bell will ring again. It will rip you from whatever shallow, troubled sleep you managed to find. You will push yourself up from the scratchy straw, your body protesting, your mind still fogged with exhaustion. You will pull on the same stiff, smelly tunic and step out into the same filthy street. The cycle does not end. It does not evolve. It simply continues, day after day, year after year, until you are too worn out to continue. The bell is the only constant, the iron heartbeat of a system designed to consume your life, one identical, miserable day at a time. It demands your labor, your time, and your body, and it offers absolutely nothing in return but the chance to do it all again tomorrow. The next time you groan about your alarm clock, remember the church bell that commanded your labor. The next time you complain about a mediocre meal, think of the gritty pottage that was your only option for survival. History focuses on kings and battles, but the real story is the crushing, mundane misery endured by the vast majority. It was a life of relentless toil, constant discomfort, and profound vulnerability. So tonight, as you lie down in your clean bed with access to safe, clean water, recognize that those aren't small luxuries. They are hard-won victories against a past that would have broken you. You've earned that good night's sleep more than you know.